Hey everybody, Uncle Rich here for Who's Telling the Truth. Let's see, today is show 178. Today's date is July 10th, 2017, and the name of the show is Now This. Now guys, if that kind of sounds familiar and is ringing a bell, the same thing more or less happened to me. And you know, on this show, we always like to give credit where credit is due. And last week while we were doing the show, as we're showing the videos, I noticed that there was like 4 or 5 videos, or 3 or 4 videos, that we used that were from Now This. And it didn't dawn on me until we were actually doing the show. And like I said, I always like to give credit where credit's due. So tonight's show, we're going to feature a lot of the clips that Now This puts up on Facebook. And the beauty of these clips is they're nice and short. They're usually like 1-minute clips. And they're going to get into longer things because they've more or less allied themselves with another company. And the name of the other company, so let's take a look. Judy, can you bring up the still? This is what the logo for Now This looks like. And what happened to it? What happened? The graphic monster stole it? There you go. So guys, this is more or less the logo for this. And you know, you'll see it says the headquarters are located in New York City. And Now This News is a left-leaning digital news company that primarily distributes its content to mobile devices and social platforms. And guys, Judy, can you come back to me? And guys, with me, I tell you, that's my cup of tea. Judy, come back to me. Judy has a tough time with stills, but hey, we're thankful she's here. And Kurt's at the board, so we got everything cooking over here. And I'm still here. Although I'm gonna need an MRI on my neck, but that's a story for another day. So anyway, you know, the one thing that I always say on this show is be specific and cite your sources. Over and over. Be specific and cite your sources. And kids, at the dinner table, when your parents tell you something, just say to them, Ma, can you cite your source on that? You'll keep them honest. You really will. And that's what we're going to do tonight. And we're going to show you. We're going to use, we're going to use Now This. But first, before we do that, we're going to show you a quick video. And actually, it seems to me Now This is joining with Seeker. And it seems that Seeker Daily is becoming Seeker. And then Seeker's going to combine with Now This. But I know if you get confused, we're going to play the video. And the sound is a little off. So you're okay. It's your sound. So just listen. So Judy, can we have clip number 2, please?
For over 2 years, Seeker Daily has been committed to bringing you into conversations happening around our world. We've added context to the news and given viewers perspective on nations and people they may not have seen anywhere else. We want to thank all our viewers for subscribing, sharing, sticking by us, and contributing to our videos as we've grown. But now we're excited to announce the next phase. We've officially launched Seeker. There, you'll still get familiar topics about the world seen through the lens of science. We've also joined forces with the talented team at Now This. They will be taking over this channel, creating more new videos and bringing in new hosts.
Hey, I'm Sean from Now This. We're a team of young journalists dedicated to telling stories that matter to young people. You've probably seen our videos on Facebook and Snapchat, but now we're making a new home on YouTube. We know not every story can be told in under a minute, so this is where we'll take you beyond the news feed, with deeper storytelling and more reporting. It's going to look a little different. You're going to see a lot of new faces, but we're going to continue focusing on the issues that matter most to you. And we want to hear from you. Tell us what questions you have about what's going on in the world or how it affects you. We're going to be here, ready to answer. So please keep all your likes, subs, and comments coming, and thanks for watching.
See what he said? Keep all your thoughts and comments coming. Guys, if you got something that's on your mind, and you want me to get to it, just check me out on Facebook. Hey, say something, put something up. I tell you, our show airs at 7 o'clock on Monday night and 10 o'clock on Sunday. And this Sunday, I got a message on Facebook from a guy in Bethel. And he said, Rich, I really enjoyed your show. I want to thank you. And I'm going to tell all my friends. And I tell you guys, it's just those little things like that that really make it worth it. And I tell you, a lot of times people think I just throw this together. I'm telling you, I spend a good amount of time doing this, and I hope you appreciate it. But like I said, if there's ever anything on your mind, and guys, I hope as we go along, you're going to get to appreciate Uncle Joey, my Billy Tijotis that lives up in Cairo, New York. I'm sorry, it's Cairo. You can't say Cairo. Only Muslims live in Cairo. But Uncle Joey's my good conservative buddy who thinks the world is flat and he doesn't understand science. And he installs oil burners. But anyway, I tell you, Joe's the only guy that hasn't banned me for life, because most of the time when I go on the conservative sites, they block me. They only want to hear from other conservatives. They never want to hear the other side of the story. And guys, the first clip we're going to do from Now This is how Trump lies to his supporters. And like I said, earlier you're going to say, well, Rich, isn't it important to cite your sources? Exactly. Very important. And you're going to hear this from the horse's mouth. And believe me, Trump is a horse's ass. So you're hearing it from the horse's mouth. But just listen and watch how they did this. They did such a beautiful job of, verifying what Trump said, and then just give them the old bada bing. So Judy, let's have clip number 3, please.
We're going to end this war on the American farmer. You are going to like Donald Trump so much, I'm telling you.
Donnie, we love you. Midwestern states that were big Trump supporters will be the hardest.
We are going to protect our country, and we are going to protect our children. People that have disability, hi folks, people that have a difficulty, I cherish them. These are incredible people, and I just want to put that to rest. Save Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security without cuts. Have to do it.
Trump's budget calls for slashing more than $800 billion.
Students should not be asked to pay more on their loans than they can afford. And the debt should not be an albatross around their necks for the rest of their lives.
All right, so guys, you can see how he misled his supporters. Now, let's see how Trump lies about jobs. And I mean, what it boils down to is he's just trying to pander, to the 1%, the fossil fuel industry. And, when you look at, Trump wants to give, the Republican Party wants to give $800 billion in tax cuts to the 1% and the billionaires, primarily the 200 richest families in the country. And later we're going to have a clip from Bernie You know, we're going to touch a lot of bases tonight. You know, we're going to have Senator Gardner from Colorado. We're going to show Ron Paul, Bernie Sanders, the new Tesla cars coming out. We're going to touch on that. But we're going to talk, right now we're going to go back to Trump lying about jobs and just listen what he said and what actually happened. And guys, you know, I mean, I can understand. I could understand if Trump makes a mistake. But the thing is, it's gotten to the point where they're not mistakes anymore. It's like they're intentional. You know, he does things for one reason and one reason only. Donald Trump. It's that simple. And he doesn't care what he says. And guys, as the show progresses, you're going to go, you know, Rich, you really raised some points. And guys, I didn't raise the points. They come right from Trump's mouth. So rather than me keep rambling on, we'll go to clip number 4, and we'll show you how Trump lies about jobs. Judy? Here's the
Donald Trump's
blind
jobs
truth about
plan
Trump's jobs.
is really nothing more than empty publicity stunts that make a false promise of economic nationalism.
We will bring our jobs back, Sean. We're going to bring our jobs, as sure as you're sitting there, we are going to bring our jobs back into this country for the first time.
3 of Trump's so-called America First deals recently fell apart. First, you remember, Trump visited the Boeing factory last February to outline his jobs plan. In his remarks, he pledged, "I will never, ever disappoint you." But Boeing is going to lay off 200 workers at its assembly plant in South Carolina.
Oh.
Second,
200,
Carrier will eliminate 600 manufacturing jobs in Indiana. You may remember also in one of his first major announcements as president-elect, Trump promised to save 1,100 positions at the Carrier factory from being outsourced to Mexico.
The 1,100's going to be a minimum number.
Well, the company is going to begin shifting more operations to Mexico this month. Third, Ford will continue a move of production to China. Now, again, you may remember under pressure from Trump, the automaker canceled plans to build the Focus sedan in Mexico.
But to think that Ford is moving its small car division is a disgrace.
Instead, it's going to build it in China. The formula for economic success is not cheap publicity stunts. American competitiveness depends on investments in American workers and their health care, their education, job training, so they are productive and competitive with workers in other advanced nations. Health care, for example, it's not only a basic right, it's essential for a strong economy. Affordable, universal access to medical care boosts productivity, wages, and growth. Other advanced countries also offer their citizens comprehensive job training. These programs equip workers with the advanced technical skills necessary to compete in a global economy. Affordable, quality education for all is also a key ingredient. In all these areas, Trump and his Republican enablers are doing exactly the opposite. They're going after health care. They're cutting funding for job training, abolishing student loan protections. Trump's economic nationalism is not a recipe for growth. It's a lie that betrays many who voted for him.
America first. Remember that.
America first. That's what the simple folk are brainwashed to believe. And guys, I talk to Uncle Joey every day on Facebook. And when it comes to health care, the Affordable Care Act, forget about it. He's not even talking about it. And there is no Trump care. But I keep saying, Uncle Joey, I said, Uncle Joey, I'm trying to protect your kids. And you don't care about them. And he goes, Rich, I don't want you to do anything for my kids. I said, Joe, if I don't, who will? You know, why don't you care about health care? I don't know. For some reason, he thinks it's a communist trap or something because it's socialism. You know, Rich, we're not all going to pay for the same thing. I said, Joe, we're all Americans. We all need health care. It's really simple. I mean, you don't have to be a Rhodes Scholar to figure this one out. Everybody needs health care, so let's do it. Let's do it the right way. Let's get it done, and let's prosper. Instead of trying to give tax breaks to billionaires, let's take care of everybody, including the people in your family, Joe. And you know what? If anything ever goes wrong with you, you'll even be covered. But Bernie's going to talk about, universal health care and single payer. We're going to do that in a minute. But first, we got to let Rick Perry embarrass himself and the Trump administration, because what does he do? He wants to promote coal. He wants to beat this dead horse named coal, and he doesn't understand the energy theory. He doesn't understand supply and demand. And when you're the energy secretary for the United States of America, and you don't understand supply and demand, I mean, that's economics 101. I mean, that's even pre-high school stuff. If there's no demand, doesn't matter how much supply you have. If nobody wants it, it's worthless. It has no value. But the Republican Party won't believe that. They believe it's a natural resource that needs to be sold. Yeah, the free market. People need to buy coal. No. People can use sun and they can use wind, and at a cheaper price. But you know what? You get a bonehead like Rick Perry, and guys, just watch how he embarrasses himself. And guys, nobody's twisting his arm. Nobody was holding a gun to his head. This all came out of his mouth. It was his own free will. And you're going to hear everything he had to say. So, Judy, clip number 5, please.
Thing one tonight, one of President Trump's more surprising choices for a cabinet secretary, Rick Perry for the Department of Energy, not just because Perry famously called for the Energy Department's elimination, but also because candidate Trump didn't seem all that impressed by Perry.
I see Rick Perry the other day. He put glasses on so people will think he's smart. What the hell are you wearing glasses for, all of us?
He's trying to show that he's intelligent, right?
It just doesn't work. People can see through the glasses. Rick Perry should have to have an IQ test before getting on the debate stage.
Now, it's certainly unfair to knock someone's intelligence based on wardrobe accessories or glasses versus context, but you could argue a basic knowledge of Econ 101 is handy for any government position, something Secretary Perry was eager to show off today.
So here's a little economics lesson, that supply and demand.
But after that, well, the economics lesson got a bit off track. That's thing 2 in 60 seconds. Energy Secretary Rick Perry toured a coal-fired power plant in West Virginia today, but ran into some trouble while talking about President Trump's increased hopes for the future of the coal industry.
How does this administration hope at all to be able to control market forces if shale gas is a third to a half?
So here's a little economics lesson, that supply and demand. You put the supply out there, and the demand will follow that.
That's not how it works. That's not how the law of supply and demand works. Supply usually rises to meet demand, not the other way around, or as Newsweek put it, even the vast majority of people who have never stepped foot inside an econ class will know that simply increasing the supply of coal will not lead to an increase in demand for it. Not to mention, analysts are already concerned about a forecasted coal market oversupply globally. Shortly after Secretary Perry's economics lesson began, it seemed he started to realize it was time to end the lecture.
Supply and demand. You put the supply out there, and the demand will follow that. The market will decide which of these they're going to pick and choose. I mean, that's really pretty simple.
Uncle Joey, pay no attention to that man behind the glasses. Guys, now you can understand why people like Uncle Joey get everything backwards. Look who their leaders are. I mean, this is sad. This is really sad. And these people are running the government? You got to be kidding. Joey, please. Please. You know, Joey's the type of guy. Joey, as long as something has an R after it, Joey is fine with it. I mean, my party, right or wrong? My party, right, Joey? You don't care. Oh, brother. But guys, you know, the one thing that always brings me to the table is climate change. And I want you to pay close attention because the sound isn't that good, but they have the, you know, they have the writing underneath it. You know, they have the captions up there. But this is Tim Wahlberg, and he's from Michigan. And this is a town hall meeting, and I want you to watch how he embarrasses himself and how he embarrasses the Republican Party and how he certainly doesn't understand anything about the science of global warming. So Judy, and once again, guys, this is another clip from Now This. So Judy, let's have clip number 6, please.
Please address your stand on climate
He thinks God will fix everything. You believe this?
Right now, I take a little more fiber morning. I'm tired of the cold spring so far. In Washington, I'll take local cooling because of the humidity and the heat in Washington State. I believe there's climate change.
Trying to make a joke of it.
I believe there's been climate change since the beginning of time. I think there are cycles. Do I think that man has some impact?
Don't think. You don't think.
Can man change the entire universe? No. Why do I believe that? Well, as a Christian, I believe that there is a creator and a God who's much bigger than us. And I'm confident that if there's a real problem, he can take care of it.
So he thinks if there's a real problem, God's going to fix it. You imagine this? This is what we're dealing with? How did this guy get elected? How is this possible that this guy got elected? I mean, did they pay off all the people in Wisconsin or Michigan? How is it possible? And you know, here he is, he believes in a God. You know, there's no evidence that a God exists, but he believes in it. And we've got evidence up the yin-yang for global warming, but yet he doesn't believe in that. And the way you've mentioned the universe, I wonder if he's a creationist. I wonder if he thinks the world is 6,000 years old. These are the type of people that are in office. And this is what we got to stop. And, you know, and people say, hey, you know, Rich, you shouldn't ridicule people. Hey, when you're ridiculous, you deserve to be ridiculed. And the gloves are off now. Because, you know, you guys have done this to yourself. You know, anybody with a computer or a cell phone can look this stuff up, but you don't want to. Why? Once again, like Uncle Joey, my party, right or wrong. But guys, you know what? We're going to have some fun because Al Gore's new movie's coming out, An Inconvenient Truth, Part 2. And it's coming out on the 28th. So we're going to have a little fun with the promo and everything. And I'll tell you, Gore gets a little mad, and you'll see why at the end of the clip. So, Judy, let's have clip number 7, please.
The United States will withdraw from the Paris Climate Accord.
Virtually every nation in the entire world agreed to get to zero greenhouse emissions. It is unprecedented. would be justified in looking back at us and asking, what were you thinking? Couldn't you hear what the scientists were saying? Couldn't you hear what Mother Nature was screaming at you?
What were you thinking? Not much. Not much at all. Right, Uncle Joey? What were you thinking? What are you going to tell your grandkids when they come to you and they say, Grandpa, what did you do about global warming? What are you going to do? You're going to look them in the eye and say, I denied it? Is that what you're going to do, Joe? When 97% of the climate scientists publishing peer-reviewed studies all agree? I think it's up to 99% now. But you'll cite the Fruit Loops. You'll cite the 2% that go against the consensus, right, Joe? Why? Because they probably have an R after their name. And I tell you, you talk about heat, and today in Arizona and in parts of California, it's actually too hot to fly. And I know you're going to say, Rich, come on. What do you mean it's too hot? Guys, what happens is when things get hotter, they expand. That's what we always talk about with global warming, And when things expand, there's not as much lift. The air isn't as dense. There's not as much lift anymore. It's physics. Uncle Joey, it's physics. He didn't want to know from physics. He didn't want to know nothing. He thinks thermometers have names on them. They don't. But anyway, guys, the next clip is from NPR. And it's very science-y, so I don't know. It might be a little hard for some people to understand, but they put their cards on the table. They make it simple. And you'll see. And, global warming is starting to affect virtually every industry. But like I always say, we're going to cite our sources. So, Judy, let's have clip number 8, please.
Now let's turn to the extreme heat wave baking the west and southwest parts of the country. Temperatures are well above the 100-degree mark. In California, it was 127 degrees yesterday in Death Valley, 122 in Palm Springs. In Phoenix, the temperature is expected to top out at 118 degrees today. In fact, it's been so hot there, more than 40 flights were canceled or delayed because some planes can't safely lift off in that heat. A new analysis published in the journal Nature Climate Change this week also said climate change is leading to more heat waves in general. It found that 30% of the world's population is exposed to potentially deadly heat for 20 days per year or more. It's the subject of our weekly segment on the leading edge of science with Miles O'Brien. Let's start with what's happening in Phoenix. Miles, you've flown for a long time. We've always heard of flights being delayed because it's too cold. How can a flight not take off because it's so hot?
Yeah, Hari, if it weren't for the snow and ice, the winter would be the perfect time to fly because a wing achieves flight. It derives lift based on the number of air molecules that surround it. And as the temperature heats up, those molecules expand. We know that when you warm things up, things expand generally. So there are fewer air molecules, so it takes a greater amount of speed for that aircraft to fly. And if the runway isn't long enough to support that, in other words, if the temperature is so high that there are so few molecules there to lift the wing that you don't have enough runway to get going fast enough, you're grounded.
All right, so this is still smaller planes that were affected. What's the difference between bigger planes?
Well, the larger planes, the Boeing 737s, the big airliners, are designed to operate in a wider range of circumstances, for one thing. They're kind of a global product that has to operate in all kinds of intense conditions. And frankly, it just costs more to certify them to these parameters. In addition, a 737, for example, has a lot more potential payload, so you can take off some cargo and still fly the mission. These smaller planes are not designed with as much versatility, and because they're smaller, they have less capability to reduce the payload and thus take off. And really, ultimately, they have charts in there that a pilot has to look at, and there'll be a maximum temperature given the altitude of the field, et cetera. And if you exceed that, you legally cannot take off.
And there are lots of runways that are too short to deal with this kind of heat. I mean, we talked about it in Phoenix, but say a place like LaGuardia is confined, or San Francisco is just constrained by a certain amount of space.
Yeah, some researchers looked at this. You know, the LaGuardia runway is about 7,000 feet, the runway's there, and while that's about 20 feet above sea level, and thus the air is denser there by virtue of where it is, and it doesn't get quite as hot. Nevertheless, at that length, there's still some parameters and constraints that we have to be watching as the climate gets warmer. This goes into the larger subject, Hari, of how our civilization is designed. When you're thinking about a beach house on a barrier island or a runway at LaGuardia or at Phoenix Sky Harbor, we have a finely tuned civilization, and as the temperature goes up, even though it's only gone up a degree Celsius over 100 years, it does create pockets of these heat waves. We're not exactly sure why, probably because the jet stream is weakening and causing high pressure systems to park in these places. I spoke with a climate scientist who has looked into this extensively. He's at Columbia University. Radley Horton is his name, as part of a series I did for the weather app My Radar.
If we look at the last decade or two, we're seeing twice as many record-breaking extreme heat events, cities that are breaking their daily record highs for a given day, compared to the number of cities having record-breaking cold temperatures. If you make temperatures just a couple degrees warmer on the hottest days, that means much more demand for air conditioning, for example, which means much greater risk of the power going out precisely at those temperatures, those times when people are so sensitive to just a little more warming from a public health perspective.
It goes a bit to that Goldilocks effect you're talking about, because even our infrastructure and our systems are built for us to be within a certain range.
Exactly, and that's why we need to be really watching the effects of climate change. It's easy to dismiss a 1 degree Celsius increase and say, well, that's not a big deal, but in isolated locations, in specific locations, whether it's Phoenix or whether it's Miami Beach or whether it's another city that has a sea level problem that it is dealing with, or whether it's California dealing with wildfires, those particular pockets, those problems are exacerbated by that overall increase in the temperature of the climate, the overall temperature of the planet. And it causes changes to our weather systems, which we're just beginning to understand. Researchers are just getting a handle on it.
So in the case of this news about Phoenix and do airlines who think about buying planes years and years out, these are hundreds of millions of dollars worth of purchases, do they think differently about what kind of jets to buy or where to park all those jets in a place with a long runway?
Hari, I think this is something the aviation industry has not gotten out ahead of. I suspect there are a lot of conversations going on right now as we've seen this record heat wave. There was a similar record heat wave last year as well, which caused similar problems. So the airlines are going to have to contend with this, the airliner makers, and airports as well. The longest runway at Phoenix Sky Harbor is a little more than 11,000 feet. They might have to think about extending that runway. What about LaGuardia, though? Is that even possible? Is it possible to even consider that? All these things get factored into the consequences of climate change and how we as a civilization can adapt to it.
All right, science correspondent Miles O'Brien, thanks so much.
You're welcome.
"134 degrees. Man, that's hot. But guys, you know, the two things that really bug me, the one thing is global warming and climate change, and the other thing is healthcare. And now we're going to shift gears and we're going to go to healthcare, and we're going to look at another clip from Now This, and this was taken at Senator Gardner's office in Colorado. And guys, not only look at the woman, look at the kid, but look at Gardner's representative or his secretary or one of his aides. Look at this poor girl standing behind the glass. She looks like she's about to cry. And I looked at it and I said, you know, when is she going to walk into his office, grab him by the collar, drag him outside, and say, you talk to these people. I don't want to be part of this. When are people finally going to say, I've had enough? I'm not going to deal with this anymore. And guys, just take a look at the girl in the blue dress on the other side and think of the word empathy. because you can obviously see this is what she has. So, Judy, let's have clip number 9, please. A Gold Star mother, you believe this?
There, that's who gets hurt with this health care bill. Children like him. That his life depends on getting the health care he needs. I'm angry too because I want to know why
Look at this girl
Senator Carter
behind
does
the
not want to
glass.
meet with us.
Is she gonna cry?
It doesn't make any sense.
Look at that.
He's supposed to be representing us, veterans, children, the constituents of this state. And I want to know why. I want a good reason why he was not willing to meet with us and talk with us. And I would like to know when we could get an answer on that.
Go get him. Don't defend him, go get him.
I mean, I'll keep coming back every day if I have to.
There you go.
Because I'd like to speak with him. For me as a parent, not just as a veteran, but as a parent, I feel so isolated trying to figure out what are we going to do for our child if Medicaid gets gutted. That is like something I think about every night.
Guys, can you imagine going through life with a kid like that? You know, and anyway. You know, fortunately, the people in Canada, they have very few things to worry about. And you know why? Because they have universal health care, something that we don't have. So, Judy, let's have clip number 10, please.
Just as a Canadian who's always had health care, I just don't get it. I mean, every westernized country in the world has it, and the U.S. doesn't. It's always just seemed remarkable to me. I mean, how can you not have it? Like, your health is everything.
Healthcare in Canada is something of a birthright.
There's no money, no credit card, nothing exchanged.
The medical bill is picked up.
It's paid for.
You don't pay anything, you show your card. In a normal situation, you would pay nothing for a doctor's visit.
How could you possibly trash being taken care of? Your whole family, 100% all the time.
Because they don't know.
I think it's crazy to trash the Canadian system. It's a great system. It offers us alternatives.
We get a little exercise when we watch the partisans take over the discussion about healthcare and drag our system in as some kind of boogeyman.
I think if I lived in the United States, I would probably not, like, knowing that I had to cover, I have 3 children, I have a husband, and knowing that the 5 of us had to be covered, I think I would be a little bit nervous.
I selected my physician. My wife selected a different physician. Our relationship with them are purely our relationships with them, not prescribed by anybody else. No one tells us where to go or when or how.
Anyone can access health care, anybody at all, no matter how severely sick they are, or they're mildly sick. It's just paid for in our taxes. It's not like you see a statement, you never see how much it costs.
If you're in trouble, you can get health care and not end up with a bill that's going to kill you.
Not anything that we even talk much about anymore. It's something you take for granted.
We rely on it, we just don't think about it.
And it's only when we hear our neighbors talk about it, when we talk to our friends in the United States, that we understand what a gift it is.
Guys, we really don't have a choice. Single payer, Medicare for all. I mean, everybody benefits. Yeah, we all pay more in tax. Granted, you're going to pay more in tax. But the benefits that you get far outweigh the money you put into the system. And when people start to understand that, you know, when people realize that when everybody contributes and it's one big pot, we all benefit. It's the only way to go. It's the only way you can do it. And guys, the next clip, we're going to show you my buddy Bernie and Ron Paul. And just watch at the differences. Watch at the difference in the philosophy and the think process that they both have. And you tell me, you make the decision, and you tell me which guy has the better idea. So, Judy, clip number 11, please.
I was talking about voluntary groups, not the gulag.
Aaron, if my earpiece was correct, I heard him talk about gulags. Truth is that the United States of America today is the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to all people, and we end up spending far, far more per capita on health care and prescription drugs.
Pay more,
Why not
guys.
go for the biggest group of all and just have insurance for everybody?
Well, socialism's not a good idea, and I know you can ask my friend Senator Sanders.
We are the only major country on earth that allows for-profit private insurance companies to make huge profits. We allow drug companies to make incredible profits.
But you did just make a great argument for nationalized health care. You said the bigger the group, the lower the cost. So all I'm taking is your argument to its logic.
I was talking about voluntary groups, not the gulag.
When this legislation was about that the Republicans today couldn't get the votes for, it would have thrown 22 million people, mostly lower-income people, off of health insurance. These are people with cancer, with diabetes, with heart disease, children with disabilities. This bill would have substantially raised premiums for older workers. You're 62 years of age, you're making $45,000 a year. Would a defunded Planned Parenthood, massive cuts in Medicaid, which impact people in nursing homes. So, this was a disaster, and I'm glad at least temporarily the American people were able to defeat it. Health care is a right, not a privilege.
My buddy Bernie, I tell you, you know, I mean, he when you listen to him, you can't, you know, if you argue with him, it's only because you're somebody like Uncle Joey who just refuses to accept anything if it isn't a Republican idea. He doesn't care. Doesn't matter. Makes no difference to him, and it's sad. But rather than me try to explain Bernie's plan, let's just take a better look at Bernie's plan. So, Judy, if we can have clip number 12, please.
A group of Senate Republicans kept the entire country in the dark about a bill that would strip health care from millions and give tax breaks to the super rich.
Sustainable.
But do Americans have a right to see this process?
They don't want to show
TV
you.
News
They're
basically
too
ignored
ashamed.
this until the text of the bill was finally released. Now, Republicans are rushing to get this bill passed. Here's how devastating this bill would be for Americans. The Better Care Reconciliation Act of 2017 would increase the number of uninsured people by 22 million by the year 2026. It would cut the financial assistance and tax credits that would help people pay for their coverage so that the super wealthy insurance and drug companies would enjoy $600 billion in tax cuts. And for 9 million people, it's a stark choice. Pay way more in premiums to keep similar coverage, or keep premiums similar with much higher deductibles. Employers aren't even required to provide health insurance to their employees. In fact, if you lose coverage, you'd have to wait 6 months longer just to sign up for coverage again. The BCRA guts Medicaid spending, which will leave millions more Americans uninsured. This is a program that's been around since 1965 and was specifically designed to provide coverage for those who couldn't afford it. This bill would also cut federal funding to states. In practice, this means cuts to the type of services that would help the most vulnerable people. The section about pre-existing conditions is tricky. So the Senate version does keep the Obamacare protections in place, but it's just a facade. It's still going to hurt those with pre-existing conditions. How? States would be able to pick and choose what they cover without any regulation from the federal government, meaning that those people with serious health conditions will be forced to pay more for less coverage than everyone else. They don't even get any financial assistance. The BCRA would make it so much harder for poor women to get good care. And while the Affordable Care Act did so much to expand women's access to affordable and quality health care, the BCRA would deny funding to Planned Parenthood for 1 year and would even penalize private insurance plans that would cover abortion care. For 1 in 5 women in America, Planned Parenthood is their only essential healthcare provider. The clock is ticking. So far, there's been a lot of talk about the process, what's good for what party. Enough about the politics. It's time to talk about the people. Lives depend on it.
All right. Yeah, Judy's out here talking to me, and We have too much fun sometimes. But speaking of fun, the next clip. Now, guys, just recently, Tucker Carlson has more or less taken over Bill O'Reilly's spot at 8 o'clock on Fox News. And there's been times when Uncle Joey and I have watched at the same time, and then we've instant messaged back and forth on Facebooks. And guys, it's like we're watching two different shows. I mean, it's honestly like we're watching two different shows. And I can't understand how Uncle Joey, I just don't get it. I mean, he has to work at this. But guys, the next clip is from Tucker Carlson, and watch how he insinuates a blame, and then watch where the blame really falls. And guys, it's just, they did such a nice job on this. So Judy, let's have clip number 13, please.
America isn't falling to foreign invaders. It is rotting from within because the people in charge don't think it's worth preserving. You have to love a civilization in order to save it, and they don't. America isn't falling to foreign invaders. It is rotting from within because the people in charge don't think it's worth preserving. The people in charge, the people in charge, the people in charge, the people in charge.
Who's in charge? Bloop. Oops. He's in charge? Who else? Oh, Uncle Joey. And I keep telling him, I say, you need more foot bullets. He keeps shooting himself in the foot. He doesn't care. Doesn't matter. Makes no difference. But guys, we're going to show you, the next clip we're going to show you is from CNN. CNN is Trump's biggest enemy. Why? It's fake news because Trump goes off on a tangent. Well, the clip we're going to show you is a Trump supporter, and believe it or not, she's running for a seat in, I believe it's Wisconsin. No. She's running for a seat in Michigan. But the thing that I really want you to pay attention to is watch how Chris Cuomo, watch how he questions her. Oops, I always have such a hard. Watch how he questions her. And guys, he takes no prisoner. And what's going to happen today, I watched him with Kellyanne Conway. And guys, it was amazing. I think when Kellyanne Conway got done today, she's going to be looking for a new job because he ate her up alive. And he made her look like a fool. But he also made this did I write down her name? Well, anyway, she's coming up in a second. And he made it, and I almost felt bad for her. And I mean, Anna Navarro, she said, I feel like giving you a hug. And why? Because these Trump supporters have to jump through hoops to defend Trump. And half the time when they jump through hoops to defend him, he turns around and gives them the old double reverse, which is what our last show is named, the double reverse, because of what Trump's done for everybody. But guys, just watch Chris Cuomo and watch how he takes no prisoners. He doesn't insult her, but he doesn't let her get away. And I tell you, just watch how he does it. And I wish that every journalist and every TV reporter would be as consistent and as credible as Chris Cuomo. So, Judy, clip number 14, please.
Hold on a second. Hold on. There's 4 boxes, so you gotta pace yourself a little bit. Lena, here's the point. You're talking about what you want to say to the American people and what you want to say, and you're very earnest when you do it. You have no message for the President of the United States. This isn't about a Twitter conversation. Don't cheapen it that way. This is about the nature and content of the words that the President of the United States uses for his critics and often even his allies. It's not about the forum. This isn't about Twitter versus Instagram. This is about what he says. So you have a message for the American people. You have no message for the President of the United States? You endorse everything he said about Mika Brzezinski? Do you agree with what he said?
I would like the entire Twitter banter to go away.
Of course you would, because it's hurtful to someone you want to support. But if you want to be a leader, you need to step up, my friend. Do you endorse what the president said? Do you endorse what he said about Mika Brzezinski?
Ever want one human being to disparage another human being.
Then say that. Then say what the president said was wrong about Mika Brzezinski. Say it. That's what a leader does.
You're trying to pressure me to say something that I'm not willing to say.
Yes, why not? Okay. Why not? If you want to be a leader and you want to call out what's wrong, do it.
I'm saying the whole conversation is wrong. We need to get back to the issues that Americans and your viewers
decency and how our president treats other human beings, especially women, is a meaningful issue. And that's a meaningful issue also. And if the media is wrong, it should be called out. But you know what? There's one president, and there's a lot of media. There's one person at the top of the chain. There's one ultimate leader. And there's a lot of media. You really want to put him on the equal footing with Mika Brzezinski in terms of whose words matter more? Come on.
I have said many times, many times, that it's okay to disagree with the president. I have disagreed with the president. But it's now time for us to move forward.
Last night I heard a former congresswoman trying to also bend herself into pretzel shapes. I told her she sounded like she was passing a kidney stone. She sounded so pained and so cringed. I feel the same way about Lena. I almost want to give you a hug. And the reason she can't bring herself to say it is because if you criticize Donald Trump, you then are out of favor, and you incur his wrath.
I have said this morning that
you know what I wish would happen? I would wish. Let me just finish. What I wish is that the Republican women in Congress would get together and would demand a meeting, a face-to-face meeting with Donald Trump, and would maybe go and explain to them what it means to their children, what it means to their daughters, what it means to them to hear these hurtful words, this kind of objectifying of women. You know, it's time for the leaders to step up and make him accountable, because the people around him are not going to do it.
If you criticize Donald Trump, then you're out of favor. And isn't that what it comes down to? He surrounded himself with yes men, and it's just a shame. Judy, how much time do we have? We're trying to juggle how much? 5 minutes. All right, you know what? Let's go. Guys, we got some good news. We'll come back. We'll run out with the Chris Cuomo clip. But first, I want to show you Tesla is coming out with the Model 3. That's right. Yep, they're going to make their first deliveries this month. Now, this month, I think they're only delivering 20 cars this month. And the next month, I think it's 1,500, with the idea that in December, I think they're going to get to 200,000 cars a month. But you know what? I could be a little wrong on the numbers, so let's get the numbers from, I believe it's from CBS. So, Judy, let's have clip number 17, please.
A major turning point for Tesla. The first Model 3 vehicles are here. But our Len Ramirez spoke to one driver who's going to have to wait a year for his new ride.
The Model 3 is said to be the Tesla for the masses, but even as the first production Model 3s roll off the Fremont assembly line today, the masses are just going to have to wait.
So I'm getting this new model.
Vikram Talati put $1,000 down to reserve a Model 3. He just found out he'll get to drive it away in August of 2018.
So many people register for it, and his production is still a long way to go.
This week, Tesla's Elon Musk tweeted that the Model 3 passed regulatory requirements 2 weeks ahead of schedule and that the first 30 customers would get their cars on July 28th. He predicted production would ramp up to 100 finished cars in August, 1,500 in September, and by December, production should be up to 20,000 Model 3s. The company has orders for 300,000.
This is the time to become a big car maker or not.
That's all there is to it.
CNET analyst Brian Cooley says investors worry whether Tesla can meet those production goals with high-quality control. And then there's increasing competition from companies like Volvo, which plans to make only electric and hybrid cars by 2019. Tesla stock rose 45% this year, but has slid 20% since June 26th.
Over time, you're going to see a lot of finger drumming on Wall Street saying, okay, guys, let's crank out more cars with fewer people in that square footage. That's a key one on Elon Musk's mind right now.
All that doesn't worry Mr. Talati, who's still bullish on the company and his Model 3, which starts at $35,000.
Compared to this S model, this one is almost 50% less price.
In San Jose, Len Ramirez, KPIX5.
Wow. The guy's, he's got to wait until August of 2018. Hey, that's what you call loyalty. And don't forget, Tesla gets to use his $1,000 deposit. I forget how many billions they took in deposit money, and that just goes to feather their nest. Hey, they're not foolish. But you know what, guys? Sometimes you can't believe some of the stuff that you see online, you see on the internet. And guys, you know, one of the reasons why we're here is to debunk some of the bull. So the next clip we're going to play, I know you're not going to believe it. I know you're not going to believe it, but guys, hey, I didn't twist anybody's arm. I just got the video off, I think it was off of Media Matters. I watched it and I said, you got to be kidding me. But don't take my word for it. Judy, can you play clip number 18, please?
You talked about people you know in research labs. I've talked to them too. You see, but again, I am in a death battle. People ask how I have this much energy. Megyn Kelly asked me what drugs I was on. And I said, I don't use drugs. She was kind of like, really? You don't? I don't know what that meant, but I thought she was trying to get me into saying I was on drugs. Folks, I have hundreds of articles I see every week about human-animal chimeras with no rights. You talked about people you know in research labs. I've talked to them, too. You see humanoids. They're like 80% gorilla, 80% pig, and they're talking. And this is highly... Go ahead.
Case Law School in 2006 was hired to develop law for the future of transgenic organisms.
And they're already here, and we're saying we want to force a debate.
What rights are they going to, do you get rights as a human if you have 50% DNA? What are the rights that are going to be?
We need to make this illegal. This needs to be illegal.
It needs to be
They're talking about making it illegal to make child pedophile robots. Okay. Okay. Make that illegal. But what about the humans spliced with animals? I mean, this is beyond pedophilia.
Why is fluoride legal? Why is glyphosate legal? Why are artificial colors legal? I mean,
undebated that glyphosate grows cancer.
You want to make the biggest...
It's like Miracle Grow for cancer.
Exactly.
Guys, I mean, is it possible? Can it be possible? Hey, there's our buddy John Wolford. He put the deposit down on the Tesla. So I got to call him. We got to find out when he's getting his delivery date. And then we got Judy and Kurt. And, what happened? Miss Bubbles the clown. We haven't seen her in a bit. And then, I want to thank Marco. He hooked us up with another dynamite pizza from Martino's. Thanks, Marco. Guys, anytime you're up by Great Plain Road, stop in and see Martino's. All right, guys, we'll see you next week. Take care. Yay!